crazy day. I just got to Vegas with my friend Stephanie. She's here too. It's been a whirlwind. We almost ran out of gas. We made it. We got here late. Didn't plan on getting here this late. Didn't get to check into the hotel at all. So we just went straight to Venetian, gonna register and hopefully get some food and hopefully win this tournament.
We immediately headed to the line to buy in for the tournament, and we noticed that the line was really backed up. For some reason, they were having trouble printing tickets, so that delayed us even further from hopefully getting a bite to eat. But nevertheless, we finally did get the ticket, and we didn't have any time to eat, so we stopped at the gift shop and got some turkey jerky and Gatorade, dinner of champions. Nevertheless, we were really excited to play some poker. More importantly, play a tournament. I love tournaments. $300 Survivor tournament where top 10% gets $2,500. Starting stack is 12,000, 30-minute levels. It should be a fun one. So let's get into the very first hand that I played. Alright, I hope you guys are ready. Buckle your seatbelts, it's about to get crazy. I actually ended up setting a record for myself as far as tournament poker goes. Alright, here we go. Under the Gun +1 opens to 300. He is an older gentleman who gives me the vibe that he probably plays pretty tight, pretty straightforward. I look down at the first playable hand I've seen in this first level, which is Ace of Spades, Deuce of Spades. It has blocking properties, it's suited, it's a wheel ace. I'm looking to get involved. There's not a lot of time in this tournament to build up a stack. You only start with 12,000. So I decide to 3-bet this hand in position from the hijack, and I make it 1,100. He makes the call. Flop is Deuce, Deuce, 9, Rainbow. I think, wow, I totally just 3-bet this hand and now smash this flop. I am super stoked, trying to play it cool. He checks to me and I c-bet on the smaller side. I don't want any folds and I can easily place a down bet here. So I make it 600. To my surprise, he raises to 1,500 and in my mind, I'm dancing on the inside and counting my double up. So of course I just flat. Turn is the 8 of diamonds and he bets a pretty big chunk here. He makes it 4,700 and remember we only had about 12,000 chips to start the hand. So now SPR is really shallow. I want to get all my chips in. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doubling up against queens, jacks, tens, maybe even kings because for some reason people don't like to 4-bet kings against me. So instead of just calling here, I want to get all the chips in. If he does have a hand like queens or jacks, I don't want to see an ace or a king come and slow down the action. So I just rip it in there and he snap calls and he had pocket nines. He flopped a full house against my trips and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was a little bit distraught for a second. I wasn't sure what was happening to me. It was like I entered the twilight zone, but I'm still happy with my play. I'm still happy with my thought process and my thinking in the hand. I feel like this was a pot I could have easily taken away from him post-flop on certain board textures. So the fact that we just both flopped monster hands, it was just super unfortunate. As soon as I got up off the table and scraped myself out of the chair, I realized that there's still a lot of poker to be played on this trip and I wasn't too bummed about it, to be honest with you. So that's going to do it for this tournament, but luckily my friend Stephanie was still going strong, so I decided to hop in some cash games to sweat her and hopefully make some of my buy-in back. I put my name on the 2-5 list and I was called to a brand new game pretty quickly. We bought in for 1,000, which was the max. I wanted to kind of fill out the table at first and the game was playing pretty tight at the beginning, so there was a lot of raise and take it's. Like this hand, for example, I raised a beautiful Jack 10 of hearts in the hijack and just took it down. So the first hand that we get some action in, there's a limp under the gun, and he has been V-pipping almost every single hand. So far, he's been playing very loose passive. We look down at King 10 of spades and raise it up to $20. He makes the call, and we go heads up to a flop. The flop is Queen of Hearts, Jack of Spades, 6 of clubs. He checks, and I bet $20. He calls. Turn is a beautiful 9 of hearts, brings a backdoor flush draw, but we have now what is called the absolute nuts. He checks, and I want to keep betting here. He could be hanging on with a lot of pair plus straight draw hands. He's been very loose passive, so I want to keep charging him for whatever hand he has here, and I make it $50. Sadly, he folds, but we take down our first decent pot. All right, in this next hand, there was a couple limps, and I'm in the hijack with 9-6 of spades, and I decide just to limp here. We end up going 6 ways to a flop of 9-6 for 2 diamonds. Big blind leads for $30, and only I call. Turn is the queen of clubs. He checks, and I definitely want to bet my hand now, and I bet $55. He calls. River is the king of diamonds, bringing a flush in. He checks, and I check back, and we're good. He mucks his hand. So my friend Stephanie had just informed me that she had busted the tournament, unfortunately. So I was so tired, and I was kind of just waiting for her to finish playing. We were definitely ready to get some sleep. So I ended up racking up shortly after that hand. I did play a few other hands, but unfortunately I forgot to write notes on them and didn't record anything. So I took my modest profit and headed to the cashier, and I was in for $1,000, and I cashed out for $1,104 for a profit of $104. So I dug into my tournament loss a little bit, which I'm always happy about, and we can move on to the next day for some more tournament fun.
I am so exhausted. I got 3 hours of sleep. It was a crazy day, a fun day, but I'm really excited to get back to playing a tournament tomorrow because I am a sucker for pain. Luckily, the pain came quickly and swiftly today. What a day. I said, what a day. Finally in bed. It is like past midnight. I only got 3 hours of sleep, so I am so tired. Super excited for tomorrow. It actually starts at 12:10, I think, so we will be able to get a lot of sleep, which is nice. And I'm looking forward to hopefully making a super deep run tomorrow. See you guys in the morning. All right, woke up at like 11, got 10 hours of sleep. Walking over to play the tournament right now. I know one thing, it cannot go any worse than yesterday.
All right, here we go. Venetian $600, 40K guarantee, 35,000 starting stack, and 30-minute levels. Makes for a pretty decent structure, a lot of poker to be played in this one. So let's get into a few hands that I played. All right, so in this hand, we're in level 2. Blinds are 100, 200. I have 9-7 of diamonds in the small blind. There's 5 limps, and I decide to complete big blind checks, and the flop is 7, 5, deuce, 2 clubs, checks around. Turn is another 7. I bet 500 and get 1 caller. The river is the ace of spades, and I bet 1,200. He calls and mucks. So we're off to a good start, winning our first pot that we played, and moving on to the next hand. Shortly after that hand, we pick up ace-8 offsuit in the hijack, and I decide to raise it up, and I make it 500. The big blind calls, so we go heads up to a flop, and the flop is king-jack-7, and he checked, and I decided to check here. The turn is an 8 of diamonds, and he checks again here, so I do decide to put out a bet, and I bet 500, and he called. The river is an 8 of hearts, and I'm really happy to see him reach for chips, and he decides to lead for 800. And of course I'm going to raise here. I want to make it a size where I think he'll look me up if he has like a king, maybe a jack. Although I don't think he has a king here because he didn't lead turn. So I made it 2,300. He thought for a while and then decided to fold ace-jack face up, so still won a nice pot here. Haven't won anything significant yet, but still going strong here. And then we run into this next hand where things get a bit interesting. We are still on level 2 in this hand, and there's an under-the-gun raise to 600. There's a flatter in middle position, and I am on the button, and I look down at 2 red queens. Of course, I'm going to raise it up here. This hand definitely deserves a 3-bet, so I make it 2,300. Folds back to the original raiser, and he puts in a 4-bet. He makes it 6,300. The flatter in between us folds, and now it's back around to me. I don't think I want to 5-bet this hand at this stack depth, and I am in position here. A 4-bet out of position from a player who hasn't done anything out of line so far. He has 3-bet a few hands, but he's always shown up with some pretty strong ones there, so I think a call is in order here. So we head to a flop, and the flop is king 10-7, 2 hearts, and he leads into me for 6,000. So now I have a pretty tough decision here. Stacks are getting shallower, and the problem with this board is I'm completely smashed against what I consider to be his 4-betting range here, which would be aces, kings, ace king suited, and maybe the offsuit ace king combinations. And another problem is I hold the queen of hearts, so he can't have ace queen of hearts here to continue barreling. And like I said, I think his 4-bet range here is super narrow, and now it has me absolutely crushed on this flop. So if I'm gonna call this bet, I basically just have to hope that he shuts down and doesn't continue firing, and there's no way I can call a bet on the turn no matter what the turn card is if he continues, just because of stack sizes. And remember, again, this is a tournament where your goal is to survive, and now I just have second pair, and that's just the reality. Either he outflopped me or had me crushed to begin with, so I did decide to make the fold. It wasn't an easy one, and it was kind of frustrating, definitely diminished my stack a bit, so I'm gonna have to try and rebuild after this hand. And I did put out a poll on Instagram to see what you guys would have done, and most of you did say you would make the fold for the same reasons that I kind of stated. I think calling the flop is just lighting chips on fire because it didn't look like this opponent had any intentions of shutting down. So I'm pretty confident in my fold. If he didn't have me beat, more power to him, but at least we live to see another day and continue in this tournament. Alright, we find ourselves to level 3 in this hand. Blinds are 200, 300. It's a 4-way limp pot, and I have Jack 6 offsuit in the big blind, so of course I check. Flop is Jack, Jack 8, 2 diamonds, and I'm hoping that maybe this will be a hand where I get some of my chips back. It checks around to the hijack, and he bets 1,000, and I call. The turn is an offsuit 9. I check again, and he checks back. So when he checks here, I think that maybe he has some flush combinations that were semi-bluffing. Maybe 9-10, and a check here would make sense because he made a pair on the turn. He could be checking a hand like ace-8 offsuit. I wouldn't expect him to check a jack. So we head to the river, and it's an offsuit king. I'm not sure what hands he would bet on the river that he checked the turn with. So I think I need to bet for value, and I bet 2,000, planning to bet fold if he raises. He called pretty quickly, and he had queen jack offsuit, so once again, our chips are going in the wrong direction, and we're definitely going to need to rebuild here really soon, or we're going to find ourselves a short stack because the blinds are going to be going up soon, and the antes are coming into play, and pots get a lot bigger, so I'm hoping we can catch some run good here in the next bit.
Once again, the tournament is not going ideally, but luckily we still have chips, so hopefully we can get something going here. On break, it's gonna be level 5 next. Just can't seem to win a pot, so when you can't win, your chips just go in the wrong direction.
Coming back from break, I did find a couple spots that I raised pre-flop and then had to fold post-flop with hands like pocket 6s, pocket 9s, just were boards that I couldn't continue on. Shortly after that, we found ourselves in the shover fold mode, so I shoved pocket 9s on the button and got no callers. A few orbits later, I picked up pocket 10s and I shoved and I got called, and he flipped over ace 10, so I was pretty happy to see the ace 10, and we did get the double up there from around 10,000 chips to 20,000 chips double up. But at this point, the blinds were going up pretty aggressively and still didn't really have much playability because I was hovering around the 10 or 20 big blind mark. I hung in there for a couple levels, and we found ourselves in level 9 where the blinds were 1,000, 1,500, 1,500. I shoved 10 big blinds with 9s and got it through. I shoved again with ace 4 of spades from the hijack and got it through. Then we headed to level 10 where the blinds were 1,000, 2,000, 2,000. I got moved to a new table, and the very first hand I looked down at was pocket 8s, and I shoved with about 12 big blinds and got no callers. I shoved again with pocket 7s and no callers, so now the problem isn't getting hands, it's getting hands and hoping to hold when you get called. I wasn't getting called, so I was just hoping for a double up, and I kept hovering around that 10 to 15 big blind mark. I then found myself with pocket 4s, and I finally got called, and I got called by ace 10, so we're off to the races, and sure enough, he flopped a 10, and that was going to be the end of that tournament for me. I'm happy I survived as long as I did, given the outcome of some of the bigger hands I played. I wish I could have built up a stack and built some momentum and able to be a little bit aggressive at my table, but sometimes that's just not a privilege you're afforded in tournaments, depending on your stack size, so we'll move on to the next one, and we will continue to have some fun on this trip, play some cash, eat some good food, and move on to the next thing.
Alright, well, I guess I'm doing the walk of shame. I got some really big hands early on, and I couldn't win with them, so I pretty much just held on to like the 10 to 20 big blind range for like most of the day. Positives are I got to play longer, I got to see more hands, and I had fun. I love tournaments, even though they cause max pain. But I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet. Might jump in some cash later. Right now I have a reservation at a restaurant. I'm gonna go eat. And that's all I can think about right now because I am super hungry. Still got a couple days left on this trip, so not all hope is lost, and maybe we can run it up in some cash later. If you're stuck at home and can't get to a casino, but you really want to play some poker, I have the perfect option for you. There's a brand new, super exciting app called X Poker. It is crazy cash games, amazing guaranteed tournaments. You will be so happy with the site, I promise you. If you want to join, just DM me on Instagram. I'll put the link here. Use club ID 69420, referral code 195689. We'll get you signed up, we'll get you in there, and you'll be crushing those games in no time.